Everybody loves a nice car, right? But when a veteran loves a car, a fast car, it hits a little different, right? See, most people think it's about speed and horsepower, adrenaline rush, but for us, let me keep it real with you, it's a little deeper, right? It's something that most people probably can't understand, won't understand, unless you've been in the type of environment that a lot of us veterans have been in, man. A lot of high-speed stuff going on, man. A lot of noise, a lot of fast pace, a lot of no excuse type of environments, man. And for me, 20 years in the Navy, man, I've lived in what I like to call organized chaos, right? You take orders, you go on missions, there's a schedule for everything, and literally everything had a purpose, right? A command, a consequence, but the one thing that you never control is time. That's when it really hits the road, the rubber really meets the road, right? In a gas car, it's like reclaiming something that I've lost, right? When I'm in that C8, when I'm in that moment, when I'm, going a good number, on the track, man, it's just something that just goes through my soul, man, through my body, man, that it's just really, really hard to explain, man. And when you serve, you learn that life can change in a split second. When you get home, you still feel that internal clock ticking, right? It doesn't just go away. So every sound, every vibration, every change in the air, man, your body remembers, man. Anytime you hear something, you might be a little fidgety, you might jump a little bit, So when a veteran, drives a fast car, it's not about, an escape per se. I would like to say it's more of an alignment, like, let's just say like the engine is more like your heart, your heartbeat, in motion, right? And it's something about, feeling, that torque hit, and that mid-engine, when it's growling and those tires are digging into the pavement, man, and that dual clutch transmission, man, oh man, just gives you goosebumps, man, and it just takes you back, to being sharp, being focused, being on that mission. And yeah, it's a new mission, mission today might be to get in the car and have a little fun at the track, but nonetheless, it's still a mission. And, when you're transitioning from the military to retired life, you still operating at high speed a lot of times, mentally, physically, and emotionally, But you got to learn how to slow it down a little bit, right? The regular world, not the military world, moves a whole lot slower, but you still got all the energy, right? So what do you do with that energy? That's a question a lot of us have. And I know that you have to channel that energy in some form or fashion. And, for some, it's working out, you might go fishing, you might build something with your hands, For me, it's cars, fast cars, and I've had some fun cars over the years. And my C8, fits the bill right now. And again, it's not that any of us are trying to show anybody anything, man, 'cause anybody can buy a car. But it gives me a place to put that energy, that, it's that hobby that has replaced a lot of the high speed stuff that I did in the military, right? And when I'm behind the wheel of that Corvette, everything kind of makes sense again. And I know that might seem crazy, man, but it really does. You just being inside that cockpit, man, I know what every little sound that I hear means. I know what every little bump means. And I know when something doesn't sound right. So I'm very analytical when it comes to my car, because there's no time for guesswork, right? No time for guesswork. You need to know for a fact. Just like when you're on a mission in the military, right? You need to know for a fact that you are trained and you know exactly what to do. You can't be trying to figure anything out. And with these cars, I don't want to figure anything out. I want to know exactly what's going on. That's why I pay attention to literally everything. And I'm the only owner of this car, right? So when I ordered it, it's one owner, that's me. So when it's brand new, I knew what it sounded like, and I know what it sounds like now. But a car like a C8 or any fast car is almost like a deployment in reverse. you know. And on a deployment, you're trained to do your job. And these cars these days, a lot of people aren't trained to drive these cars. So you have to become one with the car. You got to learn that car. And a lot of people, see veterans, in these sports cars thinking that, oh, he's having a midlife crisis. I'm having a midlife revelation. So it's not a crisis. I'm gonna say it's a revelation. I'm celebrating the fact that, I'm still here to even drive it. I'm celebrating the fact that, I survived deployments, stress, the weight of leadership that it can have. And I still have a heart that beats for something. I still have a passion for something. I know who I am as a person. I'm Eric. I'm not a rank. I'm not that. I'm a person. I'm a son. But for a lot of us, when you've been through war, and unfortunately, a lot of us have had to, bury friends, and you stood silent, during the playing of taps. It changes you, and you never forget those things. So I choose to spend some of that time nowadays, inside of that C8 cockpit, man, enjoying some horsepower, drop the top, a little bit of sun on my face, man, and just driving sometimes with no particular place to go or be, And that's another way, I say thank you, to the veterans that went before me and to the ones that gave the ultimate sacrifice, And I will always say that these cars, especially fast cars, they give you a sense of a new purpose. It's a way that you can use all those skills you learned in the military. That laser focus, attention to detail, where you can see the beauty in something that you put together, whether that's your weapon, or whether that's a whole department that you train, that you put together. You can see the beauty in something now, which is the car. And that's the end of the video.